If you have ever driven past a dealership lot or a repo auction and noticed rows of electric SUVs sitting untouched, gathering dust, tires slowly losing air, you already know something is happening in the used EV market that nobody in the industry wants to talk about loudly. This is not a story about failure. It is a story about 12 specific electric SUVs, sold cheap, discarded early, and quietly outlasting the very machines that replaced them. Stick around, because by the end of this you will understand exactly why the newest electric SUV on the market might be the one most likely to break down first, and why the obsolete one sitting in yards across America may be the smarter by today. Before we go further, if this kind of deep, honest look into the auto industry is something you value, take a second right now to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and if you know someone who is shopping for a used car or just loves stories about how industries quietly change, send this their way. And drop a comment telling us which one of these 12 surprises you most, because we read every single one. The first SUV on this list is the Chevrolet Bolt EUV. General Motors built it as a slightly larger, slightly more practical version of the Bolt hatchback, and for a short window it was one of the cheapest electric crossovers in the country. Then came the battery recall crisis tied to LG Chem cell defects, a saga that cost GM billions of dollars and forced a shutdown of production for months in 2021 and 2022. Many owners traded theirs in the moment they got a new battery pack under warranty, flooding used lots with Bolt EUVs that, ironically, now carry some of the freshest battery packs of any used EV in America, built on a chemistry GM had already stress-tested to exhaustion after the crisis forced them to fix it properly. Next is the Kia Niro EV, a car that rarely gets attention because it never tried to look futuristic. It looks like a regular crossover, and that ordinary design is exactly why so many were quietly leased, returned, and left sitting on dealer lots once the second generation arrived. Kia used a conservative, well-proven battery management system on the first-generation Niro EV, borrowing heavily from technology already validated in Hyundai's broader electric platform. Because it was never pushed to be cutting-edge, it also was never pushed toward the kind of complex software architecture that causes so many modern EVs to need constant updates just to keep basic features working. The third vehicle is the Hyundai Kona Electric, a small SUV that briefly became one of the best-selling electric crossovers in the country before Hyundai shifted its attention to the newer Ioniq lineup. Dealers were left with unsold Kona Electric inventory as marketing dollars and showroom space moved toward the flashier Ioniq 5, and many of those Konas sat for months. What buyers are discovering now is that the Kona's electric motor and battery layout is mechanically simple compared to Hyundai's newer platforms, with fewer failure points and a smaller, easier-to-diagnose electronic control system. Fourth is the Nissan Ariya, a vehicle Nissan hoped would restore its reputation as an EV pioneer after the aging Leaf. Production delays, semiconductor shortages, and a slower-than-expected rollout meant hundreds of Ariyas sat at ports and dealer lots for extended periods before ever reaching a driveway. Ironically, the very delay that frustrated Nissan worked in the car's favor mechanically. Later production batches benefited from software fixes applied before the vehicles were even sold, meaning some of the leftover units on lots today are running more mature, more stable software than early Ariyas that were rushed to market in other regions. Fifth on the list is the Volkswagen ID.4, a vehicle that became infamous in its early years for software glitches so severe that Volkswagen had to send technicians to individual customers' homes to fix basic infotainment failures. Once VW stabilized the software in later production years, dealers were left holding earlier model year ID.4s that had been sitting in inventory during the worst of the software controversy. Those early units, once patched and updated, now run on a corrected version of the same core hardware, and mechanically the ID.4's motor and battery pack have proven far more durable than the software problems ever suggested. If you are enjoying this so far, this is the perfect moment to hit subscribe if you have not already, because we are just past the halfway point of this list, and the next 6 vehicles include some of the most surprising names in the entire electric SUV market. Give this video a like if you have learned something you did not expect, and share it with a friend who still thinks a used EV is automatically a bad investment, because these next examples prove otherwise. Sixth is the Mazda MX-30, a small electric crossover that Mazda itself seemed hesitant to fully commit to. It launched with one of the shortest driving ranges of any modern EV, a decision that was widely criticized and led to slow sales and heavy discounting almost immediately. Because Mazda kept the battery pack intentionally small and conservative rather than pushing for maximum range, the MX-30 avoids many of the thermal stress issues that plague larger, more aggressively tuned battery packs, making its simpler system statistically less prone to degradation over time. Seventh is the Jaguar I-Pace, once celebrated as the vehicle that beat Tesla to market with a genuine luxury electric SUV. Reliability surveys in the following years told a rougher story, with owners reporting electrical faults tied largely to complex luxury features rather than the core drivetrain. As Jaguar shifted its entire brand strategy toward becoming electric-only in the coming years, older I-Pace inventory was heavily discounted and left sitting, and the motor and battery architecture underneath, developed with early input from established EV specialists, has held up notably better than the surrounding electronics that gave the car its reputation. Eighth is the Audi Q4 e-tron, built on the same shared platform as the Volkswagen ID.4 but wrapped in Audi's more premium interior and software suite. That additional layer of luxury technology meant additional complexity, and additional complexity meant additional recalls and software patches in its early years. Units that sat on lots during those correction periods often received updates before ever being sold, meaning the leftover Q4 e-tron of 2 or 3 years ago may actually be running more refined software than a brand new one fresh off a rushed production line today. Ninth is the Volvo XC40 Recharge, a vehicle built on Volvo's reputation for safety and durability rather than flashy technology. Volvo's parent company shifted investment toward its newer dedicated electric platform, leaving the XC40 Recharge in an awkward middle position, no longer the newest option but still mechanically sound. Dealers discounted remaining inventory heavily, and buyers who picked them up inherited a battery and motor system built with Volvo's traditionally conservative engineering approach, prioritizing long-term reliability over cutting-edge range numbers. 10th is the Toyota BZ4X, a vehicle whose launch was overshadowed almost immediately by a rare and serious recall involving wheels that could potentially detach from the vehicle, a defect traced to loose hub bolts. Toyota pulled inventory from lots and paused sales entirely for months while the issue was corrected. Vehicles that were fixed and eventually resold under that recall received some of the most thorough manual inspections of any EV sold in America, and Toyota's underlying battery chemistry, borrowed from its decades of hybrid experience, remains one of the more conservative and heat-tolerant systems on the market. 11th is the Subaru Solterra, essentially a mechanical twin to the Toyota BZ4X, sharing the same platform and facing the same recall crisis in the same year. Subaru's smaller dealer network meant unsold Solterras sat even longer than their Toyota counterparts in many regions, but once corrected, these vehicles carry the same conservative battery architecture, paired with Subaru's traditional emphasis on all-weather durability, a legacy the brand has spent decades building its reputation on. The 12th and final vehicle on this list is the Kia EV6, a car praised by reviewers for its design and performance but hurt in the used market by an unusually steep first year of depreciation as Kia rapidly expanded its electric lineup with newer models. Early EV6 units, sold at a loss by dealers eager to clear space for updated versions, actually retained one of the more thoroughly tested battery platforms in Kia's lineup, one the company continued refining through supplier relationships already proven in the Niro EV years earlier. What connects all 12 of these vehicles is not bad luck or poor engineering. It is the simple, uncomfortable truth that the electric vehicle industry has been moving so fast that the automakers themselves have been forced to fix problems in real time, often after cars were already sitting on lots. That means the vehicles left behind, discounted, delayed, or unsold during those correction periods frequently ended up more reliable, not less, than the shiny new versions that replaced them on the showroom floor. If this changed the way you look at a used electric SUV sitting quietly on a lot, that is exactly the point of this video. Subscribe if you want more honest breakdowns like this one, give it a like if it gave you something to think about, and share it with someone who is about to buy a car, because the story of these 12 SUVs proves that in the electric vehicle world, older does not always mean worse, and sometimes the ones left behind are the ones built to last.